What I'm saying is that the chances that you get anything more in terms of money out of it, like we offered already, is low to not existent. And there is absolutely no chance that you will continue to work here after this kind of bringing this to court. Yeah. So please get some advice before you waste your own time and hours for a process that will lead to nothing. Yeah.
What you just heard was a conversation between myself and one of the co-founders of the company that had just laid me off. He was calling because he wanted to understand what I hoped to achieve from this by lawyering up. And in my opinion, what that really was an attempt to dissuade me from bringing it to court in the first place. Now, before we begin this video, keep in mind that I am not a legal advisor. I am not a financial advisor. None of this is legal nor financial advice. I'm just telling you my story based on my experience. If you ever find yourself in a situation where you need legal advice, please consult your attorney or a legal advisor in the country that you live in. The situation was that the company had just terminated me and a couple of other people, and this actually turned out to be a lot of people, as we would discover after the fact, almost a year later. And I'll go through all those other details in another video. But right now, we're just going to talk about how companies will lie to your face just to get an upper hand and screw you over. So when I was getting fired by my manager with HR in the room, what they offered me was this severance package right over here, where you can see that they had calculated the severance payment to be about 3,750 euros. And they were counting on me to sign this document, which also had a clause in there somewhere which said that you waive whatever legal rights or claims on the company after you sign the dotted line. So I did not sign this document. I had gone straight home, went to look for a lawyer, called that lawyer up and asked him about it. And that's when this whole process started. I never signed the paper that they gave me, even though they tried to make it seem like it was a must to sign that piece of paper in order for the termination to be complete. What companies like to do, especially when it's time to terminate you, is use fear and pressure to make you do things that you might regret. They're going to feed you lies. They're going to tell you that you need to sign that dotted line today or you're not going to get any compensation, which is exactly what those guys told me. So don't delay. Sign that dotted line today and waive your legal rights away. And that last part is usually what they don't tell you until you read the actual document that they're forcing you to sign and find that little clause in there that says exactly that you're waiving your legal rights away. What that really does is it legally screws you over, because that says that this whole ordeal, this termination of your job is over. You've accepted their severance. You've also waived away any legal rights that you have to sue them for it. So one of the things that this co-founder of this toxic ass company was saying in that conversation after he had heard that I lawyered up was that I wouldn't get anything more in terms of money, that whatever they had offered was pretty much it. You're not going to get a better deal than to sign that piece of paper and waive your legal rights and get your 3,750 euros and walk away. Again, I didn't sign that piece of paper. I called my lawyer up, talked with my lawyer, he started the whole process, and we dragged the whole thing to court. A year and 3 court hearings later, this was the conclusion after the case was closed. I'm going to read you the settlement terms. This was the court document that was given out after the hearings were completed to mark the closure of the case. Now, this whole document is in German, so I'm going to read you what it says and translate it into English. Der Beklagten Vertreter überreicht gegnerischen Schriftsatz von der Date an der Klage. The defendant's representative submits the opposing person's written statement of 2018 to the plaintiff's representative. Nach Erörterung der Sach- und Rechtslage schließen die Parteien folgende Vergleich. After discussing the factual and legal situation, the parties reached the following settlement. Es besteht Einigkeit, dass der Arbeitsverhältnis der Klage aufgrund ordentlicher betriebsbedingter Kündigung der Beklage am the date 2018 endete. It is agreed that the employment relationship of the plaintiff was terminated on the basis of ordinary dismissal for operational reasons. What that really means is reorganization with a slice of cost cutting, really, by the defendant on the date in 2018. Here comes the good part. Der Beklage zahlt an der Klage zum Ausgleich für den Verlust des Arbeitsplatzes eine Abfindung entsprechen den Sammler 6.000 Euro brutto. The defendant pays the plaintiff, which is the person suing them, a severance payment in accordance to this law over here, 9.10 Kündigungsschutz, in the amount of 6,000 euros gross to compensate for the loss of his job. So what was that again about this whole, the chances of you getting anything more in terms of money compared to what we're offering is low to non-existent? What was that again?
What I'm saying is that the chances that you get anything more in terms of money out of it, like we offered already, is low to not existent. Yeah. So please get some advice before you waste your own time and hours for a process that will lead to nothing. Yeah.
And because I brought this to court, there's also other goodies that they offered as well. Der Beklage erteilt der Klage ein Aufführung und Leistung erstrecktes Zeugnis. Dabei sind Verhalten und Leistung jeweils mit der Benotung gut zu versehen. The defendant gives the plaintiff a certificate of conduct and performance. What that really means is a reference letter. In each case, behavior and performance are to be given the grade good. What that really means is they have to give you a positive reference letter, which means that they both lost a lawsuit, but they can't talk shit about you because the law says so, because the court has ordered them to do that, to give you a positive reference no matter what. And this last bit over here pretty much closes things out and says that everything's all good, everything's settled, there are no more mutual claims, and case closed. So I put together this comparison table to show you the differences between what the company was trying to offer me when they terminated my job versus what they were forced to offer after I dragged them in court. Before, 3,750 euros of severance. That's it. Even back then, I wasn't dumb and clueless and knew that they were trying to lowball me with this amount, which is exactly why I didn't sign that piece of paper and decided to lawyer up. I knew I could get more than whatever they were offering because the way that they had terminated my job was illegal. That wasn't right. They were counting on me as a young person who hadn't much working experience, who wasn't even born and raised or spent a lot of time in Europe, to sign that dotted line in order to waive away my legal rights in exchange for this lowball figure. They had not counted on me to actually be aware that what they were doing, the way that they were trying to terminate me, was not legal. They weren't counting on that. This wasn't the first time that this company had done such a thing. From coworkers/friends who had been in the company for a way longer time than I had been, they said that this was normal. Everyone just signed their rights away and walked away with the lowball figure each and every time. So they weren't counting on this one Asian dude to stand up for himself and sue the shit out of them. So the court ordered compensation after the case was closed was 6,000 euros of severance. By itself, that's a 2,300 euro difference between what they were initially offering and what the court was telling them to offer. A positive reference letter, that's always nice. That's come in handy a couple of times in the years that came after that. I was on 3 months unemployment payments from the German government before I started my new job. And based on what I've read, if an employee gets terminated from their job and goes on unemployment payments that comes out of the government's pockets, which is what your taxes pay for in Germany, and you bring them to court and you win, the employer that loses has to pay the government back for the unemployment payments that were dished out to you during that time as a result of them terminating your job. Don't quote me on that though. I'm not a legal advisor, and I'm certainly not a financial advisor either, but it's something that you can easily find on the internet using search. There's no way for me to confirm that, but I hope the company had to really pay back the government as well. So that's about 5,000 euros. So all in all, it's about an 11,000 euro compensation.
What I'm saying is that the chances that you get anything more in terms of money out of it, like we offered already, is low to not existent.
Versus the initially offered 3,700 euros. Minus my lawyer fees, which were about 2,700 euros, the net compensation that I got out of this court case was that positive reference letter and 8,400 euros, which doesn't sound like a lot of money in comparison to certain countries, for example, like Singapore, but this was 3 months of my salary back then. So I got a 4,600 euro profit for suing the company and bringing them to court, as opposed to accepting their initial lowball severance offer. So there's two things you can take away from this video. The first thing is that you gotta grow a backbone and stand up for yourself, especially when you know that you're not wrong. If you are in the right, why do you want to let fear get in your head? You're not doing anything wrong by standing up for yourself. See what I did over there? I more than doubled the compensation that the company originally offered me because I stood up for myself. And understandably, not everyone lives in a place where they can take action against their unjust employer and get justice. In places like Singapore, for example, it's just to the employees. But there's other things that you can do as well. The second thing you want to do is tell everyone about your story. Don't keep quiet about it. Tell your friends, tell your family. We need more people to speak out about these exploitative companies that are just so toxic and lie through their teeth. The more people talk openly about all these scumbags, the less they can get away with it. The reason why a lot of places get away with their behavior as it is right now is because not enough people talk about these practices, not enough people talk about these unjust terminations, not enough people talking about taking legal action against their employers when all these wrongful terminations happen. The third thing that you got to take away from this video is that companies can and will lie to your face without hesitation, without remorse, every single time that they get the opportunity. If they're telling you to do something like sign a document by a certain date, or you're not going to get this severance that they're trying to offer you, you should ask for time, go home, call your lawyer up, and get legal advice. Don't trust what the company says. They will tell you that their legal team has looked through it and that it is completely legal. Guess what? That legal team works for the company. Consult your own legal person to help you out. That's it for today, and I hope you learned something. See you all in the next video. Goodbye.